This has got to be my favorite true crime case thus far. This story is literally like a horror movie that happened in real life. Before we get into this video though, I do want to let you guys know that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody, everywhere, in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. You guys, I feel so super duper uber guilty for even saying that like this is my favorite true crime case thus far, because a lot of people were hurt, right? A lot of people were like, you guys are going to find out if you don't already know. But at the same time, this has so many layers. And to me, it is so intriguing. And that's what I mean by my favorite true crime case. Not talking about the criminal. We'll get more into that. But this is so fascinating. Before we get into it though, I do want to let you guys know, if you don't already know, I do have a second channel, which is Casually Christina. I do things way more casually over there if you're into that type of thing. I also have a Patreon. My Patreon is for 18 and up. Over there we go live. I do some wild story times over there. It is a really good time if you're 18 and up and you would like to join. I also have a podcast as well as an Instagram, and all of those are always linked down in the description box if you want to come and check me out. So today's video is on the Golden State Killer, and a lot of y'all were requesting that I talk about this over on my Instagram. I cannot believe I didn't hear about this case before. I literally just started like hearing about this probably about 2 weeks ago, and I cannot stop reading, watching, listening to this story because it is so fascinating to me. If you guys want to hear the story, first we're going to go into the story. I'm going to hit the high notes for you guys because it is such a public case. And then we're going to talk about my opinions, a lot of questions that I have that's like, hold up, how come this happened? Or why didn't this happen? And then I want to know y'all's opinion on this because it is wild. All right, so let's get into it. The Golden State Killer got his name because this was a male predator that was taking people's lives and doing a lot of other things in the state of California. Now, the state of California is considered the Golden State, so that's why they named it named him the Golden State Killer. And he went all over, especially the north end of the state of California, and was a serial killer. Now, he didn't start off as a serial killer. He graduated into a serial killer. This man, who was unknown for many years, up until 2018, started in 1973, and he was known then as the Ransacker. And what he would do is he would break into people's homes and like ransack their stuff and like go through their items and like really make people feel vulnerable, but not really take anything of any value. He would take like pictures or like rip up pictures of the family that's happy and like dishevel everything in the house and then just leave. And he supposedly broke into like over 125 houses. So they knew that they had this person that was, you know, burglarizing homes but not really taking anything, and it was really bizarre. In June of 1976, just 3 years after the ransacking or the burglaries began, somebody started breaking into people's homes and R-wording them. So we need a different word for that, since I can't really use that word on YouTube, and we'll use slaping them. You guys know what I'm talking about, but it has an R in it, so we're going to say slaping. But the way that he would now, at this point in time, starting in 1976, over a period of time, he slaped over 50 women. 50. Now, when I say this, I'm going to talk about a lot of different things, but I want you guys to know right off rip, whether it was one person, whether it was one house he burglarized, whether it was anything. that is more than enough, okay? Like, that is already wrong. So, but the fact that it was 50. Now, they already could not figure out who was ransacking and burglarizing these houses, and now they have these strings of slapes, okay? Now, but the way that this person that they could not figure out would do it was so wild, okay? He was a night stalker. He would stalk his prey. So let me tell you guys what he would do. This man, like, say he decides that, okay, you're going to be the next victim, right? He would stalk you. He would watch you. He would watch when you come to your house, leave your house. He would wait until you left your house. He would go into your home while you were not there and set up your house perfectly so when he come back in to slape you, it would be easy for him. Like, he would leave a window open for himself. He would leave shoelaces in certain places so he could tie you up. And then he would come back in. And what he would do is he would sneak into the window of his victim, right? Now, he did so many different things, but I'm going to give you guys a couple examples. He would sneak into the window of his victim, shine a flashlight in their eyes. So you got to imagine, you're sleeping in the bed, right? You're like sleeping, you're in a deep sleep or whatever. And then you get awoken by this bright light in your eyes and the silhouette of a man that had a ski mask. He always had a ski mask and he always had on gloves. And he would say, "Don't look at me, don't look at me." And you're like, holy, like, you're in a tizzy, right? You're just waking up out of your sleep. And then he would tie the woman up and then he would slape her. But then he would do something even more bizarre. He would stay in the people's houses and he would, like, cook food while they were tied up when he was done. And, like, he would, drink their beer, sit on their porch, just relax for a little bit and leave. And the cops could not figure out who this person was. He did not leave enough evidence behind, okay? Then the man that was doing all this graduated to slaping and breaking into people's homes that were couples, okay? So then what he would do is he would do all of that I told you guys. He would stalk the victims, He would shine the flashlight. It would be a husband and a wife. And this time he would have and he would make the woman tie her husband up, okay? And then, so let me give you guys this example. Now the woman is tying the husband up. They're all in a tizzy. They just woke up, like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then he would take plates. And he would take plates and, like, maybe a bowl on top, and he would put it on the husband's, like, back if he was on all fours, or put it on his head. And he says, "If I so much as hear these plates rattle, I'm going to kill her. And then I'm going to kill you. Or I'm going to kill her right in front of you. Or I'm going to kill you." Like, he would say different things. And then while the husband is there with the plates on him and he's blindfolded, he would blindfold them and tie him up. Then he would slape the woman while the husband had to listen. And then he would cook food in their house while they were tied. Like, the man was, like, the way that he did this was so wild. And the cops could not figure out who he was. By 1979, as this had been going on for years now, and the cops could not figure out, and investigators and stuff could not figure out who he was, that's when this criminal started graduating because it continued to escalate. It started off as, like I told you guys, burglaries, just ransacking people's houses, then on to slaping women, then on to breaking into people's houses that was couples and traumatizing both of them, which, like I said, even just one person is horrible, but then now you have a couple. And you got to imagine what these couples felt like afterwards that survived. The husband forever feeling like he didn't protect his wife, or could he have done more, or should he have risked his life to possibly save her, or her feeling guilty and icky because she has just been taken advantage of like that in front of her husband, and she couldn't save her husband, and like the guilt. And a lot of these couples split up. They just couldn't deal with the pressure of it all, and then some of them did stay together. So it continued to escalate with this man. And then by 1979 he started taking people's lives, okay? So this was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I'll tell you guys a couple little stories because I listened to a lot of the interviews of the victims. And there was one story that touched my heart. I mean, to envision this, it's going to be rough, guys. So just know this is your TW now. One of the victims was a 13-year-old little girl. Now, when she described her bedroom, she said, I lived with my dad. My dad was a single dad. Her mother had issues with substance abuse and stuff like that. So she lived with her single dad and her older sister. And her dad just did the best that he could to, take care of his two daughters all alone. And she had her bedroom all decorated, pink walls and, rainbows and hearts and inspirational sayings about being kind to each other and loving each other. And she had, unicorns on her walls and mobiles and stuff. A little 13-year-old girl's precious room. And this man snuck into her room one night while her dad was sleeping and her sister was sleeping. He tied her up, feet and hands, and he did that to her. And then he left. And as she was laying there as 13 years old, trying to make sense of like literally what just happened, and she's tied up, she had to tell herself, mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter, so she could get her feet apart. And as she got her feet apart, she wobbled over to the door with her hands still tied behind her back and managed to open the door and go into her dad's room. And she got into her dad's room. And as her dad wakes up out of his sleep, she says, "Daddy, I've been slaped." And she said he jumped up out of his bed and he just started crying. Of course, they called the cops and she had to go to the hospital, and she had to have a kit done on her, which nobody should ever have to do, ever, but especially even, a 13-year-old baby girl. And come to find out at that time, she was actually even ovulating. So she had to have, things done to make sure she didn't become pregnant. And, she said she was traumatized. He had came in her room at 4:00 in the morning. And so for years and years and years, she would wake up at 4:00 in the morning and check the locks on her doors. And her dad had changed the lock. And then her dad, that was at 13. Her dad passed away at 16. And she swears that her dad passed away and he died of a broken heart. Because she said every time he looked at her, although she knew it wasn't her fault, like she could tell that people were in pain when they saw her because they knew what happened. And that story just got me in the gut. Every single story was important, but that one, just thinking about that whole situation and her losing her dad, and oh my gosh, the things that this man did. There was another situation where there was a 16-year-old little girl, and he stalked her and did the whole thing. He broke into her home. He started dragging her out of the house because he was going to take her, I guess, in the backyard and do that to her. And the dad got up, and the parents got up. And when the dad was like, it's dark out. He's like, wait, what a minute. My daughter, whoa. So he started to go run out. And the criminal that we're talking about, the Golden State Killer, shot him right there in front of her 16-year-old self. Now, he did take off running then, but her dad was shot, and he died on the way to the hospital. He died on the way to the hospital, but he died saving her life. So that was, now this 16-year-old little girl, grew up with this memory and how her dad had once again, like I said, every single 50 of the women and men that were involved, all of their cases were devastating, but some of them just will haunt you to hear. I don't know, man. This man was a very, very sick man. And even though one thing would happen, like he would shoot somebody or whatever, they could not catch this man. They could not figure out who he was. Now, as time went on, we're talking years this was going on. Investigators are on it. They've got police out there. They've got, detectives and everything, and they cannot figure out how this man is getting away with this. So they started thinking, okay, this man has to be either a police officer or a military. He has to know something. He has to have some sort of inside information. Well, this went on for, like I said, years, and then it just fizzled off and it stopped and they couldn't figure out. Now, detectives never let go of this case though. All of these years, like I said, this stuff started, the ransacking, started back in the early 1970s. So we're talking about almost 50 years, right? Like we're in 2020, So but investigators could not let it go. They would not let it go. The victims did not let it go. A lot of the victims wrote books about it and stuff like that. And what happened was, how he ended up getting caught and tying everything together. And this is so wild, you guys. Like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. The Golden State Killer he was married. He got married, right? This masked man that nobody knew who he was. And he had 3 daughters. Well, did one of those like ancestry DNA things, and because they had his DNA, but they could not match it to anything all these years. Now they won't tell us which one. Okay, like they've said different things, but we'll just say it was like that. The 23andMe ancestry DNA, one of the things like that. And one of the investigators a few years ago said, let me just see if I can run his DNA in one of these cases, one of these like systems, and see if there's any match that comes up. Because everybody's doing like this whole finding their family trees and all this stuff. And there was one company that allowed him to do it. And they won't exactly say what name it was, and I get why or whatever. Now, when they ran the DNA and they found the DNA or whatever, it wasn't a perfect match, but it was kind of similar. So when they started checking in the systems, they found like 5 possible males that it could be. And as they went through all of them, they found this man here, Joseph Deangelo, who just happened to be at the perfect age that it could be. He was in his 70s at this time. He was in his 70s. And guess what? When they looked more into him, they found out that not only was he in the military, but he was also a police officer. Another thing, I got chills thinking about it. Another part that I did not tell you guys was while he was doing this, the R word to some of these women, a few of them said that in the process of it, that he would start sobbing and saying, I hate you, Bonnie. I hate you, Bonnie. Could you imagine, you guys? Somebody breaking into your home. Another thing that all of the victims said about him was that he had a micro penis. I'm just going to say it. A micro penis. So all of the women said the same thing, that it was like so tiny, because they're describing it or whatever. So like, can you imagine like this all of this situation happening, and then you've got this guy that's tied you up or whatever, and like he's doing this to you, and he's sobbing and saying, I hate you, Bonnie. I hate you, Bonnie. Like, it's so freaking bizarre, you guys. So anyways, when they found Joseph Deangelo, they found that when he was in college, he was engaged to a woman named Bonnie. So they're like, oh man, this is our guy. So they start watching and observing his home. They found out where he was. He was living in California, in the suburbs, living with his daughter and his granddaughter, y'all. He had been separated from his wife for 20 years, but they never got a divorce. Now, his wife was actually a divorce attorney, okay? But she never divorced him. We'll get more to that later. Just hold that thought. So they're outside, they're in their whole white vans, the whole entire spiel. They're watching his house. They're watching him go in and out, this 70-year-old man. And they're like, how are we going to get his DNA? So they swiped the door handle for DNA, and they can't really get enough of it. But they found a fresh tissue where he had blown his nose and threw it in the trash can, y'all. And they ran the DNA, and beep, 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 beep. Perfect match at 70 years old. Wow, this is crazy. This is so wild, you guys. Like, oh my gosh, you guys understand why I've been watching and listening and reading about this for like nonstop. This is so wild. So they get the warrant and everything, and they arrest his old behind. And no disrespect to my older generation out there, but he don't deserve no respect. I'm so sorry. He just don't. This man is, to me, I don't even know if he is human, the things that he's done. Ugh. So you guys, let me tell y'all, this man goes into court. I'm sorry, I'm getting so hyped, but like you guys, I'm just trying to tell you, this man goes into court now. Now he's on trial, right? Which we'll get more to that. Now he's going to court for this, whatever. And I think he takes a plea or something, because whatever. But when he's in the court, they're wheeling him in this wheelchair, and he looks like this old, frail old man, and he's like this, and he's hunched over, and he's looking so sad. And like when they ask him questions and he has to answer, he's answering like, oh, like they're like, do you know why you're here? And he's like, yes. Like, and so speculation starts going and the media's talking and like everybody's like, is he even competent enough to stand trial? Like, he's so old. Could he have done this? Like, people are looking at him and they're actually starting to feel sorry for him. Like, he's this old, frail old man. Like, oh my goodness, support. You guys, they had a camera in his cell in the jail. And y'all, he's climbing up on the thing. He's in the jail exercising and like cleaning his room. But then when he goes to court, he's in a wheelchair like this. Oh, he's still trying to play the system I can't make this stuff up. This is what I mean by like, this case is a real life horror movie that really happened to people. Like, it is so scary to know that there's people out there. And then let me tell you guys some more stuff. We're just going to get into chatting now because you guys have got to go. I could not find an actual movie on this. I heard Jeremy told me, because Jeremy's all obsessed with this too. And if you guys don't know, Jeremy's my husband. Jeremy told me, I guess there used to be a movie or something. I haven't seen it. Have y'all seen it? Let me know. We could not find it. But he read that they were portraying the women that got attacked in the movie as like very and like laying on the bed when he came in or whatever, and like almost like they were wanting it, so they took it off. I couldn't find it, but they need to do an update. If the victims are okay with it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's hard, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I would be because this is so wild. So let's talk about a few things. I cannot believe they found him. Long story short, okay, he ended up I think he took a plea. They didn't necessarily say that, but I'm pretty sure he took a plea deal at some point because California does have the death penalty and he didn't get the death penalty and he pled guilty, okay? And when they asked him to say something, he gets up there and he's like, I just want to say that I'm sorry to the people that I hurt. I think that was in the plea deal because he's not sorry. I try so hard not to judge people, but like the way that he was faking it in court and the way, like, I just, I don't, and his neighbors. So I told you guys that he lived with his daughter. The next door neighbors, they called him Crazy Joe because he would be outside like yelling at himself. And one time he called his neighbors and left them a message on their phone, basically telling them if they didn't quiet their dog down, he was going to kill them all. And there's so many flip-flop and layers to this. Another part of it that I did not tell you guys is that when he would sneak into these people's houses and these women and stuff like that, and the men too, he would steal their IDs. Now imagine how vulnerable that would make you, right? Somebody breaks into your home. They do this to you. They take advantage of you in this horrible way. Your husband, if your kids are there. There was even one story where the woman was in the bed and her 3-year-old baby boy was laying next to her. He blindfolded and tied up the little boy too and did that in the same bed. Like, that's like, I don't understand. Like how, okay, anyways. But he would steal the IDs. So you got to think about now he has their IDs. So when he's gone, like their victims are thinking like, he knows my name. He knows my date of birth. He knows so much about me with my ID. And some of the victims he would call like years later, like 2 or 3 years later. And when they would answer the phone, he would leave a message. He would go, how crazy is that? And you want to know what he did to another one of his victims? She was working at Waffle House, okay, years later. Now you got to think, this person has broken to your house, done all this to you, and they've never caught him. So he's still out there. He's got your ID. He knows about you. He knows a lot about who you are and stuff like that. And he's still out there. Is he still watching you? Is he still stalking you? Is he this? Is he that? It's all in your head, right? She's working at Waffle House and she gets a phone call. Now you got to imagine she's at Waffle House, hey, scattered, covered, smothered, tossed, whatever. She's just, having her day, like, would you like more coffee? Would you like some cream, sir? Okay, thank you. Hey, whatever her name is. You got a phone call. She's like, okay, a phone call at work. All right, must be emergency. She runs back into the back. She picks up the phone. Hello. And he starts saying, you remember the time that we played? Ha ha ha. I'm going to kill you. Like, oh my gosh, I got chills all over. Like, I didn't hear more about what I would imagine she quit her job and moved. Like, how scary. And the investigators said that they believe that he probably went to Waffle House to eat one day, probably with his daughter and his granddaughter, who knows, and saw her and remembered her and then went back and called to taunt her. Like, how freaky. Oh my gosh. So, okay, let's get back to what happened in court. So anyways, he pled out. He got 11 consecutive life sentences. If you guys don't know what consecutive is, it's back to back, okay? You can get concurrent and you can get consecutive. I know, y'all know I've been there, okay? If you get concurrent, let's say I've got 5 charges and the judge gives me 3 years on all 5 and he runs them concurrent, which my charges is exactly what happened. He gave me 3 years on all of my charges and he ran them concurrent, which means they all run together, which means I do 3 years. But if a judge gives them to you consecutive, they're back to back to back to back. Now, the sucky part, so he'll never get out. He'll never see the light of day again. The victims said that they have closure seeing him, but I really wonder, let me tell you guys something. When the victims got up there and spoke, because every one of them that were still here and wanted to were given a chance to speak at the court hearings, almost every one of them that I listened to made sure to belittle him about his, whatever. And I know that, maybe you shouldn't do that or whatever, but I get where they're coming from. Like, they wanted to humiliate him in any way because they had been humiliated their whole lives. And I get it, because I ain't gonna lie, I was laughing at some of the things they were saying. There was one woman that got up there, y'all, Lord forgive me. But I can't. He was traumatized. She got up there and she goes, no, I don't. She's like, and then you stuck your little disgusting in my, like, I'm like, them women, they got together. And the thing about it is the women are all like friends now and they're there to support each other, which is really good. And they all collaborated like, no, we're going to get up here since he wanted to humiliate us, humiliate me in front of my husband at the time, humiliate me in front of my kids or whatever. Like, we're going to get on up here and we're going to tell you everything we've been thinking for the past 40 years while you've been living your life and they've been living with the trauma. So I can't say I wouldn't have done it neither, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie. I am not even gonna lie. They must not have lied. They all had the same story. All right, so let's get into some points, y'all. This is wild. So he was arrested living with his daughter and his granddaughter. How scary must that have been for the daughter, I wonder, after she found out, because allegedly they didn't know anything. Now, we know the wife's name, but I have not seen her face. Remember, they have been separated for 20 years, but they never got a divorce. And the 3 daughters, I don't know who the 3 daughters are. And I can imagine they're wanting to stay out of the spotlight. I mean, you think, what was the case? Like, even the Megan Formushka case and all of these cases, like, there's people that are going to be on both sides and they're going to attack. And especially the family, I could only imagine what they would go through, the kids and the wife and stuff. But like, for me as a mom, like, if I had my dad living with me around my baby girl and then to find out that he did all this stuff, like, I can guarantee you those 3 daughters, then they got to be in therapy after this. They need some serious, like, I couldn't imagine, like, the dad you grew up with. Now, I also wonder, I would love it if they would speak out, but I'm pretty sure that they would never. But I would love to know if maybe they saw things growing up that now, little red flags or little things or little outbursts or little wonky ways that maybe they now make sense to them. The next thing, remember I told y'all we were going to talk about the wife? So, supposedly, in California, I don't know if this is around the whole country, but in California, there's like a law or statute or whatever the word is that if you are married, you cannot, or you don't have to testify against your husband, okay? That is what investigators think has kept her from divorcing her husband these 20 years. They've been estranged for 20 years, but she never divorced him. And she is a divorce attorney. If anybody could divorce him and get what she wants out of it, it would be her. if anybody knows the law on if they should or should not divorce their husband, it would be her. And that makes me and other people think that she knew something. How are you going to tell your husband leaving the house all these times? Now, I know he was a cop, but he ended up being fired from the police department for stealing something, whatever. That's a whole nother video, y'all. Oh my gosh, that the rabbit hole goes down so many trails. But and I'm not saying I'm not trying to make her out to be a villain, but it makes you wonder. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have any suspicions. You didn't have any suspicions. Did he have any weird quirks when they were being intimate? Did he ever say Bonnie's name when he was being intimate? Like, you know, why are y'all separated and not divorced? Which people do that. You know, I'm not saying that people, but she's a divorce attorney. You would think, you know, there's a reason why she didn't divorce him. Now, it could just be because she just didn't want to, but it wouldn't cost her a dime because she's a divorce. I don't know, you guys. Seems a bit sketch. Seems a bit sketch that she may have held on to that just in case it ever came out so she did not or could not be a part of it. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. And I apologize to her if I am wrong, but that is my suspicion. Let's talk about the DNA. Like, there's a lot of controversy of people thinking that it's not right for you to swipe DNA like that from these types of sites. And let me tell you guys something. Whenever I told y'all a while back in a video and said I did the 23andMe, I was thinking about doing the Ancestry. A lot of people were saying, like, you don't want the government to get your DNA. Baby, let me tell you something. When you get arrested, I don't know what it's like where y'all live, but here in Florida, they swipe your mouth. They take your DNA. They've had my DNA. And in all honesty, I want them to have my DNA because DNA is a really, really, really good way to prove that you didn't do something. So please take my DNA because Lord knows, you know, like, whatever. I mean, I ain't ever heard anybody planting DNA on somebody. Have y'all? If you have, let me know down below. But I don't think he deserves, no, they should run for this man, they should run every system in my opinion. You know, if you're not doing nothing like that, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. This is DNA. This is not, you know, did I see this person do this or did they fit the description? That's where things get funny. DNA to me, as far as I know as of right now, seems pretty, you know, black and white. So I think there's no problem with that. That's my personal opinion. What is yours? Let me know down below, even if you don't agree. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the statute of limitations. Now, when he was being charged, they could only charge him for the murders because the statute of limitations had ran out on all of the slapes, okay? So he was only charged for the murders. You guys, should there be a statute of limitations on something like that? Like, what, you know, like, so if a person can run around and slape over 50 women or men, whoever it is, you mean to tell me if they can hide out for 7 years or 10 years or whatever it is, then they can get away with it? I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So what do you guys think? Did y'all hear about this? Now, I am going to tell y'all, me and Jordan and Jeremy did record a podcast on this. I know y'all are waiting for the Aileen Wuornos. I'm sorry. I'm waiting on my husband. Y'all forgive me. We recorded a podcast on it. It is very immature. Okay. We are very laughing about certain things about the Golden State Killer. Listen, because of who he, like, so I'm gonna let you know, if you get squeamish or if you're highly sensitive, don't listen to that one. But again, let me know what you guys think. Have you heard about this? How wild is this? What are your opinions? What do you think? As always, my loves, please do not forget to like this video. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so, so, so very much. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Love you guys. Bye.
We are dreaming.